Today we are going to talk about how to use a simple Python script to connect to a router, run a few set of CLI commands, and store those outputs by extracting the device host name. So here on the screen I have a simple script which is using netmiko library or dictionary from Python. I've already posted some videos on the channel about using netmiko to connect to the routers and get outputs. This is just an expansion of that script wherein you log in and do a few additional things. So first, quickly going through the script, you can see that I am importing the netmiko function ConnectHandler, which is used for connecting sessions to the router, getpass to prompt passwords and not having to store that locally on the script, and importing the key part is the regular expressions and the OS functionality. So what this regular expression and OS will do, I will explain on the script. First thing is we are prompting as we run the script for username. So whatever is being entered is stored in the variable. For password, getpass module is used where it gets the password entry that we enter and stores it on this variable that will be called in later on. In terms of the commands, it is trying to read a file where I have a list of CLI commands. I will open this file. So this information, whatever is here, is read and stored in this variable commands to send, and I will print out the commands so that we can see what are those commands that will be executed by the script. I have some exceptions where if the file is not found, it will clearly give you an error. You can see that I've initially created a file called BA. That's why the errors are reflecting BA, but I'm actually using a different file name. So it's just a kind of an updation you can do to match your error message if that particular file is not found. But the logic still remains the same. Now going further, I have a list of IP addresses that I will open up a file called VA, again parse it and store it in this variable called devices. And I will be using this device variable and the commands to send variable to connect to the routers and run the set of commands and store it. Again, the reading of device IP address also has an exception written so that if it cannot find the file, we will generate an error message. Now going further, this is a traditional for loop for router and devices. Devices is where we have the IP addresses, and we start a friendly message saying connecting to the device, and then we invoke the session. We mainly make sure that the device type is Juniper Junos, because in this case it is Juniper device. Of course, if your vendor is different, you have to just update the function accordingly, which is available on Python documentations. Now you can see the username is replacing the username that is already stored. Same is the case with password, and the same is the case for IP addresses. Eventually we can see that it also says that it has established a connection using the ConnectHandler. So you know that we have already used ConnectHandler with netmiko. I am calling in that function to establish a session with the Junos devices. Once the device connection has been established, what really happens here is we start to run this command called show system information. This is a command that is specific to Juniper routers where it can list the host name and other details. So once the output is available, which is here, you can see that this particular variable is doing a net connect send command for this system info output, which in turn maps to this actual CLI command. So once we have executed this command, what we do is using a regular expression within Python, we search for a host name and we store that value. And we also print out that host name of the router. Whatever is found based on the regular expression match, the syntax is listed here. We list the host name. So as the script is running, you should be able to find out whether the host name is correctly parsed by the script or not. If it does not pass, you have some error messages that can be printed out. If this is something you don't need, you can remove it, these lines, but ideally I would recommend to have this as it helps in debugging. Once the host name has been identified, the focus is to create a new variable called output file name, where the file is created with the host name that we have extracted and adding a suffix like output.txt. So this is the file name. The file name will be whatever is the host name that is extracted through the script with a few additional details that I want. Then the next thing is, as it clearly mentions here, you create a directory to store the output. So whatever is the outputs that I'm going to run and how when I create the file using the host name, I first will create an output directory called router outputs. So you can see this function os.make directory. It's going to try to create a directory. If it exists, it will not create a directory. If it doesn't exist, if the directory called router output does not exist, then we will create it. And then we go further down. You can see that now I'm opening this file. which has got the hostname detail, the file that we created here. Let me say, here is the file. You can see that variable. And then what we are trying to do is we are trying to send the commands that we had passed earlier. So whatever commands we took here is what we are sending out, because you can see for command, this is another for loop, just like how we had a for loop here to iterate between the routers. You can see that for this for loop, it is trying to put all the commands to send into this variable, and we are calling that. So once the commands are executed, we are trying to store that into this text file. Eventually, once everything is performed, we complete the session, we close the session, and we come out. One interesting thing is between outputs of each command, I am trying to put a hyphen times 50. So you will see how it actually looks after the outputs are run. So this is the router that I have, the Juniper router. I have started a monitor start message matching for user lab, because that's the username I'm going to use to connect to the router. Now to invoke the script, I simply call. So let me first show you the files that I have there, my command files. So this is the list of commands that will be run using the script. As you remember, it is SD file. And if I open up the IP device IP file, you can see I just have one IP for the sake of explanation. Of course, on the VA file, you can have 10, 20 or 100, whatever devices. What the script will do is for each of these IPs, it will connect, it will try to run these commands, get the outputs and store it. And it not only stores it, it also tries to identify the host name of the device and use that when it's creating the file. Now quickly running this command, invoking the script using Python. You see it's asking me for the username, then the password, and it's already executed it. So you can see commands to send. As we discussed, it's listing out whatever is the commands that this script is going to run. Then it clearly says it's connected to the device, and I have this additional message as well. If you don't want, you can obviously remove it here, this particular line here. And what is key here is, you see it has extracted the host name of the router using the regular expression. It has identified the host name, in this case MX304A. And output for this is saved on this router output directory. You can see the host name and the output.txt file. Now if I go to this router output.txt file, I should have this output file, as you can see here. If I open up this file to see what it has done, you can see it's run the first set of commands. It's separated the next set of commands with this hyphen, as we discussed on the script. It's run the next set of commands, and finally it has performed the last command as well. Likewise, you can enhance the script by adding additional device IP addresses, and if you want more commands, you can add it, and you should be able to get this working. So this is one way of getting this kind of script working, where it connects to the router, runs a list of commands, and stores the output based on the device host name. And as we were discussing, you can see on the monitor start messages, I can even see that my session is established and what are all the commands that the script was running, and eventually it exits out of the router. Hope you find this useful. Bye for now.